Now, I'm excited to kick off today's event, which is going to be Legend, wait for it, Dairy, How I Met My Mentor, Secrets to Building Relationships and Growing Your Career in Tech, sponsored by Intuit. Now, Intuit's mission is powering prosperity around the world through a global technology platform that helps consumers and small businesses overcome their most important financial challenges. Serving more than 100 million customers worldwide with TurboTax, QuickBooks, Mint, Credit Karma, and MailChimp, Intuit believes that everyone should have the opportunity to prosper. So we're thrilled to be joined by four incredible women leaders at Intuit, Jin, Nicolette, Bridget, and Alina, who are going to share how you can grow your tech career through mentorship and networking. So thank you all for joining us today. So first things first, would you ladies mind introducing yourself and sharing a bit about your background and what you do in your role at Intuit? Whoever wants to start can jump right on in.
I'll start. So hi, everyone. Thanks for coming today. I'm Bridget Kimball. I have been at Intuit for about 3.5 years now, and I work in our consumer group, which is our consumer financial products. Probably the ones you're most familiar with would be TurboTax and Mint. And my role is I'm the chief architect and vice president of foundation engineering in our engineering organization. And so I lead a team of architects that work on how our software should be built, and a team that provides services that all the other teams need. So anything that all the teams need to build their capabilities. So I provide security functions, site reliability operations. So we work on the mobile app and some core services that everyone uses. My background is actually pretty traditional in terms of tech. Like I went to college and got a degree in engineering and have worked in tech all my life. I am originally from LA, based in San Diego now, but I've worked on, my first job was building satellites to put on rockets. I've worked on digital video, streaming technology for internet and cable television, and now at Intuit. So I'm one of those old timers, and I'm excited to see how much is going on in the communities now compared to when I was first coming out of school.
Outstanding, outstanding. Who's next?
I can go next. Thank you, Lashing. My name is Jin Cheng. I am a senior technical program manager at Intuit. Specifically, I work in the Intuit AI organization, managing technical projects from start to finish. So I work closely with cross-functional teams to ensure the successful deliveries of all the security and fraud-related projects using AI solutions for all the Intuit product suites. For example, TurboTax, QuickBooks Online, etc. So I joined Intuit last June through Intuit Again Returnship Program. It's a great program, which I will be talking about in a minute. Mm-hmm. Personally, I have been living in the Silicon Valley for over 25 years. It's a long time, I know. Ever since I graduated from Stanford with a master's degree in computer science. Before Intuit, I had worked for a few high-tech companies, and I'm just very excited that I can utilize my past experience and skill sets in my current role as the technical program manager at Intuit.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Nicolette, would you like to jump in?
Yep. Hello, everyone. My name is Nicolette Grannum, and by degree and by trade for a few years is actually a mechanical engineer in Delaware. And in 2020, a lot of things happened, but one of those things was I moved to California and I moved to the Bay Area. And shortly after doing that, I realized my career path wasn't what I wanted to do. And a friend of mine actually sent me an application to this program called the Apprenticeship Pathways Program. And so I can get more into what that is later, but it's a between Intuit, AnitaB.org, and Team Treehouse to develop and retain women and underrepresented minorities in technical roles. And so in March of 2021, I actually started this program. So it's a 6-7 month commitment to career change. And I guess to go a little bit into how long I've been at Intuit, I've been working with Intuit since March of last year. I was working at Intuit June of last year, and then began a full-time position after completion of that program in October of last year. And so I am now a full-time software engineer, and I am on the core bookkeeping team for QuickBooks.
Wow, love the journey there. That is amazing dedication there. And then last but not least, I do believe we still have Elena.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eilena Heim. I'm a senior recruiter for Intuit's University Recruiting Program. We focus on hiring students through our internship and co-op program, as well as new college grads. I've been at Intuit for almost 10 years, and I'm out of the San Diego office. I'm originally from Hawaii and received my bachelor's in psychology from the University of Hawaii at Manoa. I left the islands about 20 years ago, and now I live in San Diego with my husband and 7-year-old son. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Thank you for being here. All right. So I want to just jump right on into it. And Intuit, get it? Intuit. All right. I don't know. Okay, we're going to do stuff like that the whole time. So anyway, what experiences led you to a career in technology? And then what attracted you to a career at Intuit specifically? And I'd love Jin to kick us off.
Sure, I would love to. So since I majored in computer science for both my undergrad and my graduate studies, so it was very natural for me to land a career in technology. So specifically, I joined Intuit through this Intuit Again returnship program. It is a wonderful 16-week program that offers a great supportive pathway back into technology workforce for people who take a career break. So the program provides opportunities for returnees like me to enhance their skill sets and thus gain confidence. So during the program, each returnee is assigned with a one-on-one mentor who can give help not only on the technical specifics, but also on providing the career development guidance and support. So in my case, for example, my mentor, he is a great mentor. He shared a lot of his useful and excellent advice and tips from his past experience. And that had tremendously helped me with my onboarding process to my new role. And my manager was also very supportive and had provided a lot of guidance to me as well. So each week, they really spent time out of their busy schedules doing the regular check-ins with me to ensure things were going well and I was on track for my career development. So it was truly a very rewarding experience. And I'm just very grateful for the Intuit Again returnship program.
Amazing. I love that. Nicolette, I'd love for you to jump in too.
Yeah, so I have always loved puzzles and learning and kind of going through and doing new things. And when I was doing mechanical engineering work, when I was studying that in university, I always loved being in a lab. And so I thought my career was definitely going to be me in an R&D lab, discovering some new technology and constantly applying new things. And when I actually started work, that was not where my career ended up going. And so I remember going through and I was doing a lot of tried and true, and I wasn't doing too much in the way of new work. And so it was kind of draining, actually. And after I moved here, one of my roommates at the time was actually in tech. And so she was very much like, okay, hey, try AnitaB.org, right? And so it just ended up going through, they support women in technology. You can do a career change. It doesn't need to be something you have a degree in. You like learning. And so we've known each other for years. So she knew that I enjoyed these types of things. And so she's like, this would be a perfect field for you. And ended up at Intuit, specifically with that partnership with AnitaB.org. She said, this is the organization to reach out to, and that partnership. And so any company that can deliberately and intentionally expand its makeup for more inclusion and something that's super supportive, the way that Intuit is and has been and has shown me that it is exactly the type of company that I would love to work for and have enjoyed working for. So that was why Intuit specifically.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much. All right. Hey, Bridget, what skills do you believe have helped you the most throughout your career? And with technology always changing, how do you continue to grow your skill set in your role?
That's a great question, Lasheen. And, actually, technology moves so fast that whatever you knew before is kind of irrelevant before you've even fully mastered it. So, from my perspective, some of the most important things that have helped in my growth in technology, and I've worked in a lot of different fields, is really being willing to learn new things. Part of technology is everything is new. And so you have to have a mindset that you have the skills to learn new things. That's what's the value that you bring. And so I've never been afraid to ask. I've learned over the years to never be afraid to ask for help. I don't understand something. Can someone spend some time with me to whiteboard to explain so that I have enough context to move forward? And I think that being open and trying to build the relationships with people who do know is actually what helps you move forward in your career, because you become more aware of what's going on around you, and people think of you when there are opportunities because you've already showed that you're open to doing new things. In terms of growing skill set, I try to keep up with industry stuff through reading blogs and going to conferences and all of that. I'd say that also, I've been in a leadership role for quite a while. And so what I found very helpful for me is most people don't go to school to learn how to be a leader or how to manage teams. I mean, maybe you do in business school, but my undergrad and graduate degrees were in tech. I've done a couple of leadership training programs for both new and then executive leaders. And I find that to be, that was really helpful to fill the gaps that I had in my own knowledge. And professional development through networking organizations. So there are lots of organizations for women in STEM. It's a great way to meet like-minded people in different environments and learn from each other. So if you need a job, you can reach out to that network. And even a few years ago, I asked, does anyone know someone who's really good at putting together resumes to help? And those networks help you learn how to grow your career. And so it's a combination of all those things that's really helped me navigate the last 20 plus years.
Incredible. Thank you for that explanation there. Jin, would you like to chime in on this one?
Yeah, sure. I definitely agree with what Bridget just said. I think having an attitude of willing to learn is very important. And I think that comes from both sides, both on the hard skills side as well as on the soft skill side. I think on the hard skill side, as Bridget just mentioned, there are several ways to grow our technical skills. For example, attending conferences, as Bridget just mentioned, I think is one great way to keep ourselves updated with the latest technologies. And we can also do the continuous learnings from taking online classes. And on the software skill side, I think it's very helpful to have a positive attitude to learn and willing to learn from other people. To me, I think I truly believe that everybody has some good traits and skill sets that I can learn from. So learn from other people and empower yourself.
Absolutely.
I would just add one thing to that. I love that, learning from other people. And like Jin said, you can learn from everyone. And sometimes it's learning what you should do, and sometimes it's learning what you shouldn't do. And so every opportunity, everybody that you meet is an opportunity to learn something to help make yourself better.
Absolutely, 100% correct on that one. So switching gears just a tiny bit, Alina, as a recruiter, what skills or traits do you think are key for success at Intuit?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think at any company, understanding the company's values is really important in terms of traits. So at Intuit, our values are really important to us when it comes to the like interviewing and identifying candidates is customer obsession, stronger together, and courage. So with customers obsession, solving customer problems while keeping the experience in mind, stronger together, team collaboration is really important. And with courage, being bold and not afraid to share new ideas, ask for feedback, and give it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So I'm very curious, Nicolette, actually, how has mentorship played a role in your career journey?
Yeah, well, it is definitely safe to say I would not be here right now without it. Just going through that, we had 7 months of intense study, and then going into a brand new field in this apprenticeship pathways program, and it was intense and something that I've never studied before, and this is not a career that I'd been part of. And Tech Women at Intuit partnered me with several mentors throughout the program, and all of them had different dynamics with me. And so some were emotionally supportive, just kind of helping me fight imposter syndrome, and like, you can do this, you deserve to be here. Others could be more technical and, okay, well, try writing your code this way. And just kind of going through, and each person and each dynamic has given me something different and made me more well-rounded, and realizing that, hey, I just started in this field, but I can be here, I deserve to be here, and that we can all do this. So just having that reinforcement there, and that is both technically, that is emotionally, and all this other thing, and just advice in general. And like, okay, like Bridget mentioned and Jin has mentioned, reaching out to people and asking for help. And that is something that, as silly as it might sound, it wasn't something I really did too much beforehand. It's just a lot of, well, I can figure it out. And just having someone who can go through and say, like, no, you're not in this alone, and you don't have to be in this alone. You shouldn't be. Like, I'm here for you. Other people are here for you. Reach out, talk to people, and connect. And having those connections is what made this such an incredible journey. And that's why I'm here and have successfully career changed into this field.
Absolutely. I love it. Bridget, what do you think as far as mentorship?
Yeah, I love the Nicolette story, and I would say that for myself, mentorship, when I've had someone who's been a mentor and looking out for me, that's when I've had the biggest jumps in my career. And if those people hadn't been around at that time, I might not have felt comfortable putting myself out there for a new role, or even having my name put out there, because that person was invested in helping me be successful. So the fact that, now we have Intuit and other companies, but Intuit has invested so much, and we create mentoring programs for people, employees, and it really just provides that feeling that you're part of a larger community. And for myself, I don't think I would be where I am now if there hadn't been one or two people along the way earlier who informally took an interest in me and helped me get over my fear of doing something new or my uncertainty, and saying, you can do this, here's how you can approach it, and go. And I think that it really, having that has made a huge impact on where I've been able to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kind of staying in that same frame of mind here. Nicolette, you brought up a good point about learning different types of mentors, whether it be emotional or technical. So with that said, how have you identified the right mentors for you? and set yourself up for successful mentoring relationships?
So for me, the mentors that I connect with the most just happen to be ones that communicate with me best. And so our communication styles are similar. I know it's one of the things I'm working on, but as I mentioned earlier, me reaching out to people and asking for help and asking for that support is something that I am kind of in progress on, and having mentors who kind of check in and say like, hey, how's this particular thing going? I know you're working on XYZ, and that could be a technical one, or again, working on reaching out and doing this. Like, have you reached out to your team about this particular thing? I know you were having an issue there earlier. And just having that communication that works are the mentors that I've been able to keep in contact with the most. So for me, those mentors have been helping with both technical and going through and career advice and emotional things as well. So that in itself varies, but just reaching out and finding different people to speak with, and then those people that stick with you the longest, I guess, are the ones that communicate the best. So I guess for me, there are a few mentors that I have, but the ones that have kind of stuck with me the most are the ones that kind of I have the communication click with.
Absolutely. Jen, I wanted to get your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, sure. So just to add a little bit on what Nicolette just said, for me, I had great mentors from the Intuit Again returnship program, and I'm very thankful for their mentorship. I think besides this assigned mentorship, I think as Nicolette just said, proactively reaching out to potential mentors is also very important. So find those people who have inspired you, or some people who have gone on a career journey that might be a good reference path for you. I can share an example of my own. So during the Intuit Again returnship program, we had an event where we invited a woman leader from Intuit who gave a talk on her incredible journey and shared her valuable life experience. So after the meeting, I want to learn from her. So I reached out to her and asked her whether I can come to her and get her advice for my career development. I was, to be honest, I was a little afraid that she might be busy and may not have time. But to my surprise, she gladly accepted my mentorship request. And now we have a regular monthly check-in, and she has been giving me great advice and guidance.
That is tremendous. Awesome. Thank you, Jen. So switching gears a tiny bit here, as a woman in technology, building a strong network and learning how to tap into this is key. Have you had success in building connections with other women in technology, and has your network opened opportunities for you? We're going to stay on you, Jen.
Sure, I would love to. I think participating in this Women in Tech, for example, at Intuit, we have this TWI, Tech Women at Intuit organization, and that really gives me the opportunities to know other people or other women in the tech industry and get support from each other. And also it gives me a sense of belonging and a feeling of empowerment. And I think another benefit is it also helps people build connections, as Bridget and Nicolette mentioned earlier. And that allows us to help out with each other in the time of need. Mm-hmm. And I think this networking group can come from different levels. The Tech Women at Intuit is a company-wide group. And in our organization, so I am in AI, Intuit AI, and in our organization, we have this group named Women in AI. And we periodically invite women leaders and hearing their journeys and inspiring stories and listen to their mentorship advice. I think to me, I feel more connected and more empowered after all these events. And I think I strongly suggest people attending these networking groups and get themselves empowered.
Absolutely. Bridget, I'd love to get your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, sure. Everything that Jin said, I definitely +1 on all of that. Within Intuit, we also have an executive leader kind of lounge program for more informal relationship building across the female executive leaders across the company, because you can tend to be a little bit isolated. While actually we have over 30% of women in executive roles, there's still you don't necessarily get to meet all the women that are out there. So that's a great way to network within the company. I also would say that externally is really important too. So to keep yourself abreast of what's going on around you, and getting perspectives from other women that are in similar roles, but in different companies, different situations. And there's an organization in San Diego, Athena, that is our largest STEM organization for professional women. And I've been a member of that for a number of years. Intuit is a sponsor. And the last year, I've been fortunate enough to be the chair. And those networks opening up like that just really becomes inspirational, because you see that there are so many people just in the same situation that you are and can help you. And so I think one thing, like as women, and I've experienced this myself, try very much to give when someone asks. I do a lot to help other people. And I would just say, as you build those networks and help people, also remember that you can ask them for help. And that's something that I've been working on, is making sure that, we all want to help each other. And I would encourage, if there's a local organization where you are, or a national, spread your feelers out to all of those, because it will only make your network bigger, and it will only make you more confident, because you know that you have that support around you from 360 degrees.
Love that. Great answers for both of you there. So Elena, I wanted to tap you for a second here and ask, do you have any general tips for navigating the job search process at Intuit specifically? Like, what can candidates do to make their application stand out?
Yeah, that's a great question. As we all know, navigating the job search definitely requires effort.
Mm-hmm.
So I recommend setting up your LinkedIn profile to showcase that you're actively looking for work through your headliner, and also including keywords to make it easy for recruiters to search for you. I think that's key. If we can't find you, we're not going to connect with you. We heard networking. So that's another key thing, finding someone to refer you, whether it's a professor or a friend, that's very helpful. And then when you do get in front of a recruiter, make it count. So make sure you do your research, know the company, their culture, values, mission, news about them. Again, making that genuine connection can really help make your application stand out, especially at Intuit.
Great answer there. Very informative. Thank you. Despite making up nearly half of the US workforce, women are still vastly underrepresented in the STEM workforce at about 27%. There's still a lot of work to be done. What can women do to lift each other up and encourage more women in technology careers? Nicolette, what do you think?
Oh, yeah. So it's, again, word of the hour right now, but networking. And so it's just going back to university days. I was part of the National Society of Black Engineers, NSBE, and just having those connections. And so kind of looking around in my classes, I was one of a handful of Black people and one of, I think, 2 Black women in my class. And so just having these events where you can go around and say, okay, hey, you're not alone. And going through that, it helps with retention, because I feel like there can be a lot of times when you look around a room and it can feel almost isolating. If you look around and you're kind of, hey, why am I the only X here in this particular room, or what do we do about this? And it's incredibly important to look around and be able to see that, and just having that network and see other people. Okay, hey, I have people here I know I have things in common with, I can reach out to if I need something, and can help promote and support each other. And just personal networks as well, because tech was something that I had kind of looked at casually, but I wasn't really seriously considered changing until a friend of mine who was in tech already said, hey, no, I think this is something that you would like to do, and I think it's a good match for you. You should give this a shot. So even just having that personal network of people who are already in the field and connections with each other, I think is a great way to increase the number of women and underrepresented minorities as well, but also in recruiting. And so I don't want to get too much into the recruiting side, but just deliberately and intentionally seeking women and underrepresented minorities. And that's part of why I really like the Apprenticeship Pathways program, which was designed specifically to do that, is incredible to me. And third one, I guess, going back to kind of keep things moving pretty quickly, as mentorship. And that's back into networking, but it's finding other women in the field and women who are doing this and kind of following a career path that you like. And you say, hey, okay, well, that's something I think I would like to do. How did you get there? Right. And then just going through and then being able to reach, and then so kind of reaching up for advice, reaching back down to help other people get to where you are, that type of thing. And just having those connections, I think, is incredibly important.
Absolutely. I agree with all three of your points. They're very well crafted there. Bridget, what are your thoughts on this one?
Sure. I agree with what Nicolette said. It's very important that we encourage women at the beginning of careers, and women who are thinking about it, to stick with it and show that there is a pathway for success. Intuit, as Nicolette mentioned, we've been very intentional about trying to increase our diversity in our workforce. And so I think this last year we met our goal for the year, and I think we're over 30% now with tech women globally, which 3% doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a lot. It's a lot of hard work and dedication. And I'm sorry if you can hear my dog. I would say, like, when you're in the workplace, if you start, and studies have shown this, that retention when you get to the 5 to 10 year period tends to drop. And so we bring in these amazing women, they do amazing work, and then they drop out. Some have families, there are other things, but sometimes they feel that they don't fit in. And so I think it's really important when you're in the workforce to just do the micro things to help encourage the women that are with you, and know that you're there for them. So whether it's, a formal thing like mentoring, or even if you're in a meeting and, a woman says something and, it kind of, someone goes off on a different tangent, like, bring the conversation back and just make sure that, use the power that you have to help others feel that they have the same right to be at the table, and they'll do it for you later. And so I think really creating that web, that it doesn't have to be big, but little things help us feel like we belong. And it doesn't hurt me to help you, because everyone rises with that. And so I would say in the workplace, even informally, little things that you can do, suggest if they have a presentation, give feedback ahead of time, if it's someone that you have a relationship with, like help them feel confident and help them present themselves more effectively. So little things like that in the workplace, I think, make a huge difference, in addition to the more formal mentoring programs.
Absolutely. I love that. Okay, good. So hey, Jen, how do you believe Intuit fosters these career paths for women in tech?
Yeah, sure. I think Intuit does an awesome job fostering career development for women in tech. Specifically, the Tech Women at Intuit initiative at Intuit focuses on fostering and developing career paths for tech women at Intuit. We have these custom programs that are created based on the feedback from our technologists with the goal of advancing them. And as Nicolette and I just mentioned, Intuit provides the great alternative pathways into tech by having this Intuit Again returnship program and the apprenticeship pathways program. In addition, Intuit also focuses on early engagement with universities through the internship and co-ops programs. And we have strong relationships with many universities, DEI organizations. And last but not least, I think Intuit also has annual support of the Grace Hopper celebration, one of the largest event for women in tech. So all these wonderful programs are just a few examples of how the company cares about fostering career development, advancing career development for women in tech. And I'm very proud to work for a company like Intuit.
Absolutely. I love that. And kind of staying in the same vein there, Eilina, I was wondering, what do you believe sets Intuit apart when it comes to advancing women in the workplace?
Yeah, thank you so much for this question. I think we covered it earlier just by being intentional with identifying women in tech and also underrepresented groups. So in recruiting, we do this on a daily basis. You know, me specifically, since I'm on the university recruiting team, through the internship and co-op program, you know, we specifically target DEI groups and partner with them to foster those relationships. I think that really, really makes Intuit's, that sets Intuit apart in advancing women and other and underrepresented groups. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's one that I'm very curious about. You know, many women in tech struggle with some degree of, and this was mentioned earlier, imposter syndrome. Have you ever felt as if you were not good enough or not technical enough to be where you are? And if so, how'd you overcome that? And I'd love Nicolette to kick us off.
Ooh, I'm feeling that right now, actually.
Oh my God.
So there's a lot. There's an amazing cohort of 11 women that started with me in the Apprenticeship Pathways program. And there's a point where I'm sitting there, I was like, I'm the one up here talking about this right now and kind of going through it and giving answers. And it's just kind of like, it can be a lot sometimes. And it's something that I was working on, like I mentioned, with the first of my mentors that I was partnered with, actually something that she was helping me with and something she mentioned that she was fighting with all the time. But I know for me, when imposter syndrome hits, it's mostly because I'm feeling like I'm looking at where I'm not. And I'm going through and thinking, well, I don't know as much as this person that's been on my team for 4 years, or someone who has a degree in this. And it feels like there's something kind of insurmountable that's keeping me from being where I feel like I should be right now. And there's this kind of shame that comes with, they're all going to know that I don't know all of the things yet. And everyone's going to look at me and say, well, she doesn't know how to do everything that she wants to do right now. And it's like, you can't have that, really. And a lot of that, to kind of overcome that feeling, I like to look back at where I came from rather than where I am not presently. And just going through, like I said, a year ago, this was not a thing that I was in. This is not a field I was in. Like I could go through and I could read the words on the screen when I'm looking at a code base, but I wouldn't know what it meant or what it was supposed to be doing. And so when I stopped back, there are so many insurmountable hurdles I've already crossed to get here. And there's a lot of things that have already happened. And so just kind of realizing that I've taken it one step at a time to get to where I am means I can continue to take one step at a time to get to where I want to be. And so each time I actually take, step back and look at the situation again, it's just like, okay, you have done a lot and you do deserve to be here. Let's take a look. You might not be where you want to be yet, or you don't know what you want to know yet, but you can get there and you will get there. And so I think just kind of taking that breath and just like, okay, wait a second, let's look at what we've already accomplished and what we've already done, and then go from there. And it just makes everything just kind of decompress a little bit, and I can recenter myself and keep going about my day.
I love that. Did anybody else get the warm fuzzies? Just like as she was getting to like the good, like, you know, the meat of that speech. That was so good. Oh, I felt that. I was with you, sister. All right. Jen, I would love for you to chime in as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I definitely felt the same way Nicolette just mentioned. For me, when I first took on this AI technical program manager role, I was also a little doubtful, of whether I can do a good job managing all these technical AI projects for two reasons. First reason is I didn't know much of AI at that time. So I had in-depth knowledge in general software development, but AI was a new domain to me at that time. And the second reason was that for my role, I was responsible for managing the projects for the entire portfolio, which consisted of several different work streams and a large number of projects. So the scope of my work was big. So to overcome this thoughtfulness, first of all, my mentor and my manager, they really gave me great support and advice on how to cope with this transition. And secondly, I really did all the things we just talked about. I took online classes to learn AI. And at Intuit, we have a variety of online classes that I offered for employees. So I took advantage of that and took online classes to learn AI. And also I participated in the Tech Women at Intuit organization to get help and learn from other peers. Mm-hmm. And also I want to mention that, confidence building comes from learning practices. So I can share some examples of that. So at the beginning, during the meetings, I was hesitating to ask questions as I was afraid that, the questions might be dumb questions. So I held off asking the questions until later in the meeting, the same questions was asked by another senior member in the meeting. And then at that time, I told myself, maybe the questions I wanted to ask was not that dumb. So after a few rounds of learning, I became more and more confident about asking questions and raising concerns. So lastly, I want to share a piece of advice that is to focus on enjoying the work and not worry too much about the results. I think good results will come naturally if you put down your passion and truly enjoy the work.
Absolutely, 100% agreed there, Jen. And then, we hear from our community that it can feel more challenging to do virtual video interviews versus making in-person connections. Alina, do you have any advice for candidates to best present themselves and make genuine connections in virtual interviews?
Sure. Great question. Yeah, virtual interviews can definitely be challenging. So I guess my advice to making a genuine connection is to, prior to the interview, test your technology. So make sure your camera works, your audio works. During the interview, make sure to pay attention and make eye contact. It's also really important to ask the interviewer questions about their experience and why they joined the company. And also, I love this. Lastly, send a thank you note, whether it's to the recruiter, the person who coordinated your interview, or the assessors. So those are my 3 pieces of advice.
Absolutely agreed there. Great. Thank you so much, Alina. I just want to, thank everyone for like their answers, so honest, so candid, so genuine, so passionate. This is, you know, why I love moderating these kinds of sessions. I just love being a part of this. So now we get to do the Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, remember, we want to hit the Zoom window, go to the bottom, rather than chat, hit Q&A, and I will read your question out. So we have a couple right now, and ladies, this is for anyone to answer. So you can take your mics off mute, and whoever knows or wants to answer can just jump right in. So first one is going to be, how has the pandemic / shift to remote working impacted the mentorship relationships you have? As whoever wants it can answer.
I'll go. I will say that within Intuit, I participate as a TWI mentor, and the remote via Zoom is it takes a little longer to make the connection. So if it's in person, we would go get coffee at the cafe and sit and chat, and it just takes a little bit, it can take a little bit longer if you don't automatically click with each other personality wise. What I would say is one thing that I've done that I think has been helpful, and it was actually one of the mentees that I was partnered with who suggested this, so it was her idea rather than mine. She asked, can I just ask you questions about your life? And so we talked about, how many kids we had, pets, places we've been. And so we spent time just getting to know each other before we jumped into the mentoring, because Zoom calls just seem a little more formal. And so I would say that spending the time in the beginning to just try to have that coffee conversation and not talk about work, I think helps with future meetings where you are on Zoom, and by then you've built a little bit of a rapport. So I would say it's made it a little bit harder, but I think that making that effort to learn about each other first makes the subsequent discussions a lot easier.
Yeah, I can agree with that for sure. Okay, cool. Excuse me. Next one. Should a mentor be in the same field, and do you set a time frame in advance, like 1 year or so? And do informal mentorships work better than formal ones?
I can jump in here. I know for me, at least, having a mentor in the same field can be helpful, particularly if you want to track along the same path that they're kind of working on, but it's not something that is like, well, they must be. There are a lot of things that people get from, and I get from my mentors that aren't in the same field for me. And in the same way I was mentioning, oh, this mentor helps me with general career advice on like, hey, making sure you're asking for help. Here's how you tackle imposter syndrome. Make sure you connect with people in your teams in this way. And so that type of advice doesn't need to come from someone who's in the same role. And like that being said, it can help finding someone who's on a track that you would like to be on, if you would like more specific intentional advice. And then I guess just to go, so that'll depend on, I guess, you and what you're looking for really, but I've had pros and of both in the same field and not in the same field at all. And I guess when I'm going through and I have informal mentors, there's no specific time frame in advance. It's not like, oh, we'll meet up monthly for a year or anything. That'll just be every so often we'll reconnect, and someone will reach out to the other and just go through, hey, it's been a little bit, how are things going? And just letting you know, or hey, it's been a while, let me let you know how things have been. Or so it depends. So some mentors I do have monthly meetings with. We sit down and we intentionally set one time a month. We're going to catch up and we'll reestablish where we are and where we're going. Other mentors that I have, it's just, oh, hey, yep, it's been a few months. Let's reconnect. And I think that for me is kind of the best way. So you can go through, depends on what your dynamic is. And now just kind of going back a little bit into having things virtually, it does need to be or feel more intentional now. I know in previous careers, mentors just kind of like happened upon me because we ran into each other in the break room and we just got to casual conversation, like Bridget was mentioning, just outside of work conversation first, making it easier to connect to people. And so now you have to kind of intentionally find people and reach out. So it's a little different. And in doing so, you might find yourself setting these schedules of like, here's when we meet in deadlines and things, but it is a little different now, but that's how it works for me at least.
Absolutely. And in that point, that actually kind of segues to my next question that we have here. Is there any actionable advice on how to find and sustain a mentoring relationship? My experience so far has been that leaders are busy, and even though they may have good intentions, they don't have the bandwidth to set up time.
I can chime in on that one. I think from my experience, having this mentorship relationships requires effort from both sides. So from mentee side, he or she should really think things ahead of time and schedule the meeting based on the available time from the mentors, as well as asking the request ahead of time from the mentors, and that will help tremendously keeping the relationship longer. And also, don't forget to appreciate the time from the mentors. I think that's another way to help keeping the relationships as well.
Absolutely. I did want to just chime in and let everyone know we have just about 5 minutes left, and there are a handful of questions. So I'm going to try to fire them off really quickly and see if we can get a little bit more concise answers to get everyone in. If we aren't able to get everyone, please feel free to reach out to Fairygodboss, and we'll be happy to coordinate a way to get those questions answered. So what's the best way to approach someone who you want to be your mentor, especially if they're not at the same company or organization?
I would say that, similar to what Alina was saying about when you're looking for, for an interview with a company, you can, if you're able to connect with that person on LinkedIn, or, you have an email or some way to contact them. Before you ask them to, will you be my mentor, find a connection point. So like, I was at this event and I saw you speak, or so-and-so, I was talking to so-and-so who spoke really highly of you, or I really admire this article I read, or I try to find something that's a little more personal, and don't ask for the mentoring right away. Just say, I would love, like, could we have coffee, virtual coffee once? I'd just love to talk with you. And then that's a low stakes ask. Mm-hmm. And so then if things go well, then it's a lot easier to say, hey, I'd love to meet again. I get a lot of requests for people to, like, will you be my mentor? And the comment about not having time is true. There's a lot. And I would say my assistant is like, you have too many of these on your calendar. Mm-hmm. So I would, you don't always have to look to, the formal leader. There are people around that actually can teach you a lot and can be extremely supportive. And so, open your field, your field of view on where you're looking. And even if someone is not, an official leader, they may be a very informal, influential leader, or they know something that you could use. So be willing to go for maybe the non-conventional, because you may learn some things and that you wouldn't have gotten from the other person, and also they would have been able to dedicate more time to help you.
Very good point. This one's going to be our last question here. I am co-chair of our women's resource group, and we are in the process of preparing a presentation with our ladies on advocating for yourself. What advice do you have for women on the best ways to advocate for yourself?
I think I can answer that one. To prepare for this type of presentations, I think there are two parts. One is know yourself. What are the values you can bring to the audience? What contributions can you bring to the group? And on the other side, know your audience. What are they looking for? And what are the things, you guys can get connected. In a sense, you provide something they are looking for.
Absolutely. I actually ended up having a little bit more time. I can get one more in. Could you suggest some platforms where we can build networks apart from Workplace and LinkedIn?
If you're in the Southern California area, Athena is a local organization, but we are doing so much virtually now that we're going global. All our content is online now. There are other professional organizations in tech. There's like Women in Technology International, AnitaB.org. There's a laundry list. You could just like Google online and you'll find a long list, and look to see if there are any that interest you, even if there are like organizations that help like younger women get into tech, like girls who code, all those things. You meet other people who are passionate about the same type of thing as you are, and ask your friends what organizations are they involved in. And sometimes it's easier to go to something when we're back in person with a buddy than just by yourself. That can be a little intimidating. And so I would look to see what are the active organizations in your area, and just put yourself out there. That everyone's there. Those should be some of the safest places, because everyone there is trying to help each other out.
Absolutely. And with less than a minute left to go, I really, really wanted to just thank everyone who attended our webinar today. This was absolutely phenomenal. And I really wanted to thank our guest speakers here, Bridget, Jen, Alina, Nicolette. Really, really informative. So happy to have learned and met you guys and worked with you on this.